Today, we seen another huge gap day up in the market. And the question is Jay Powell about to get fired? We look at the fear and greed index. We're sitting at 60, well within greed territory. Now, we come over and look at how the indices fared across the board. The Dow was down 0.59. Nasdaq was up 285 points. S&P 500 up 44 points. Russell 2000 down 0.87. Look at advancing issues versus declining. We had 62.6% of issues advancing on the day. Then as we come over and look at the sectors, technology leading the way. However, the only two sectors in the red, financials, the big laggard out there, followed by industrials. Now, as we come over and actually look at financials real quick before we talk about Jay Powell, notice when we look at the XLF, we had a huge gap up yesterday after the elections. Now today we came right down towards gap support. Are we going to come down, maybe test a breakout structure point, or even come all the way back, fill in the gap? As you look at stocks like JP Morgan, has an inside day out here. We look at Bank of America, inside day. We look at Citigroup actually getting into the gap. Then we look at Goldman Sachs, also an inside day. Now, keep in mind, when we see an inside day in the market, that indicates that tomorrow is likely going to be a breakout or breakdown from this pattern. And if we come over and look at, do we have any news for tomorrow? Well, really, the only news is going to come out at 10 a.m. where we have preliminary consumer sentiment, followed by preliminary inflation expectations. Now, if you watched the FOMC press conference today, you probably saw Jay Powell get a little bit irritated. People say, are you worried about the next administration firing you? And Jay Powell got a little bit snappy. No, they legally cannot. I'm staying here. I'm not going anywhere, is essentially what Jay Powell was saying. But, you know, if you guys didn't watch it, I would encourage you guys to go back and watch it. Today on the live stream, we're watching the FOMC press conference and talking about how wore out Jay Powell looked. And it seems like he is still having some fog from the actual election. However, Market Watch basically lays it out, says Trump is not expected to try to fire Fed Chair Jay Powell. Now, Jay Powell thinks that there's no way Trump is even able to legally. And then we got Market Watch talking about that Trump's not expected to fire him. Now, if we look at the most recent investor sentiment survey, we can see now the bulls are back at 41.5. We can see the bears have shifted down a bit, down to 27.6. So do we continue to push new all-time highs? Let's not forget, we saw the Dow today making a new all-time high. However, closing with the doji candle. So we still have this large gaping gap. Then we look over here at the small caps. Small caps today, basically a candle of indecision, a little bit more of a selling tail on top of the candle. We saw the Russell 2000, the IWM, being down 0.84. Now, this morning on the live stream, when we did the market analysis, we talked about the MACD starting to roll over, and notice we are still not able to get down into gap support yet. And if we stay up here at these upper levels, the MACD indicator gets towards the zero line. Watch out, we can see the market getting ready to rocket to new all-time highs. Then as we come over and look at the dollar today, having an inside day, getting a pretty good knee-jerk reaction on the way back down. Now, if we come over and look at gold today was actually rebounding a little bit, got about 50% of yesterday's range back down. And if we look right, came right into the minus development area on the composite profile. That's an area we most certainly were talking about. Now, as we look at this, we do see the MACD indicator is still crossed to the downside, but we got to ask ourselves, is this nothing more than a little retracement on the way up to set up a deeper retracement down? Now, keep in mind, Trump would like to see interest rates at zero already, and maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but we know Trump wants lower interest rates. Now, if lower interest rates are going to be in the cards, we should see gold continue to move up higher. Now, if we look at the yields today, the yields also backing down. However, I still want to caution you, essentially today, both in the dollar index and the 10-year yield, we are seeing that we're having basically an inside day. So be well aware of that. Next, we jump over and take a look at the volatility index. Now, the VIX today was down 6.58%, closing near the lows of the session. And we can see it's now trading at 15.19. Now, yesterday, the VIX was down roughly 20%. And if we're up or down plus or minus 10%, that means within the next 1 to 2 days, we're likely going to have an adverse reaction, meaning the S&P is likely going to go lower in this scenario, which today would have been day number 1. Tomorrow would be day number 2. Now, I want to bring it to your guys' attention. There is no published 80% sale with Apex Trader Funding at this moment. But if you use the link in the description box down below and use promo code Mike at checkout, I've been told that 80% discount is still being applied. Now, if we come over and look at the QQQs real quick, we can see a new all-time high once again. However, we also have 3 consecutive gaps on the way up. And I was looking for the gap today to possibly come back and get filled. However, that simply wasn't in the cards. We can also see we had this ABC structure over here. That level has been taken out. We have another ABC pattern up a little bit higher at about 522.85. We jump down, look at the 1 hour chart. Look at now, we see the MACD indicator starting to get a curl effect. It's starting to look a little bit tired. Then out here on the 30-minute chart, we see the MACD indicator has crossed to the downside. And keep in mind, 3 gaps to the upside, highly susceptible that we're going to come back and fill at least one of these gaps in the very near future. And if the VIX is going to accurately predict a correction in the market, then maybe tomorrow we can actually see this gap coming down and getting filled. One thing to also note, as we zoom this up here a bit, I'm going to classify the profile shape as a P as in Paul. And that indicates if we start breaking value area low, I expect the lower third of the range to come back and get tested about 509.85. Now, one thing you will want to pay attention to as well is going to be the minus development area at about 513.13. Then as we come over and we look at the futures markets real quick, look out here on the 4-hour chart. These candles are massive. This is a massive, massive move straight on up. We've now had a range of 1,240 points, and you can see we're closing right near the upper tippy top of the range. However, in the futures market, this is not a new all-time high. We're not far away from it, but it's not a new all-time high just yet. We're just a few ticks away, or was it? Let's go ahead and check what the previous all-time high was. High was 21,252. If we look at the high from today, the high was 21,253. So I was wrong. We have now made a new all-time high in the futures markets as well. And you can see, look where the volume is. At some point, we will reject back down towards that area. We have several minus development areas slightly lower as well. Another thing I do want to pay attention to is I want to pull a fib. Keep an eye on the Fibonacci retracement level. And once the turn gets underway, we'll have a better understanding where those levels are going to come into play. But if this ends up being the high, then we can see the 38% retracements all the way down here at 20,779. If we end up going higher tonight or tomorrow, we'll just simply have to drag that Fibonacci retracement up a bit higher. Now, as we come over and look at the 30-minute volume profile levels, notice we're closing right near the upper end of the range. Now, one thing to note, yesterday we had an untested point of control, 20,795.50. We did not take out that level today. Tonight, we're going to have an untested point of control at 21,170. And once we start getting stacked untested point of controls on top of each other, it really increases the probabilities. We'll come back and test that price point. Now, if you notice, value area high is up here at 21,251.50. Point of control, 21,170. Value area low will be 21,087.50. Now, I am tonight on the live stream going to be looking to target 21,170. So you want to make sure you're subscribed and you have the bell notifications turned on for all. Now, as we come over and look at the SPY, go ahead and say it with me. New all-time highs. We had that hammer candle yesterday. I said it could be part of a hanging man candle. However, we needed to close below it, and we did anything but close below that price point. We still have an ABC pattern completion up here about 600. And if we come over and look at the SPX, we know that Goldman Sachs has been calling for 6,000 on the S&P 500. And today we had a high of 5,983.84. So we're getting very, very close to that psychological 6,000 price point. Now, as we come over and look at the hourly chart, notice the MACD indicator lines are starting to pinch together and starting to roll from an elevated level. Then as we dive down, look at the 30-minute chart. Today, we had a D as in dog shape profile. So here's what's going to be on the agenda for tomorrow. Expect whichever way we break first is going to be a false break. So tonight, the futures market starts breaking up. Look for that to be nothing more than a trap to potentially come back down and fill the gap down below us. Now, tomorrow, if we're breaking below value area low, or if we break above all-time highs and we get back down below it tomorrow, I do want to start focusing on gap support and maybe all the way down towards that gap being filled. Then as we come over and we look at the S&P futures, we've had a range this week, 288 points, just a rocket ship on the way up. And again, really no pullbacks. This is the only significant down candle we've had. Everything else has been up, and away. Down candle right here was barely unable to qualify as an inside candle, even though it is quite a wide range. And we just keep melting on the way up. Shorts continue to get squeezed. Now, when we come over and we look over here at the daily profiles, notice we just have that grind on the way up, not really a parabolic straight up move. And we can see that value area high comes in about 6,008.00. The point of control will be 5995.00, and value area low is going to be 5985.50. So tonight you can see we're just right now above value area high, we start coming back down below it, I want to target that point of control. Now, with the S&P 500, pay very close attention. We're going to have 3 consecutive untested point of controls. The first one at 59.95.00. The second one, 59.34.25. So bare minimum, I think we test the first point of control. And quite often when we get 3 or more stacked point of controls, we take out 2 of those levels in one fell swoop. Now, if you guys want to learn about what trade copier I use to trade my funded accounts, make sure to watch this video right here.